In this video, we're back on the road again, folks, braving the wilds of North Idaho. First, a look at a retrofitted single-turbo C13 with some interesting findings in the overhead, to say the least. Then back into the woods to, as the saying goes, teach a man to fish. We're going to be showing an owner-operator how to do his overhead instead of just doing it for him. Either of these engines turns into a problem, folks, or a big old goose egg. You'll just have to wait and find out. Hey guys, Josh with Dep Channel. Today what we're going to be doing is going out to a town called Blanchard and looking at a C13, I believe. And it's got IVA problems, he suspects. I believe he wants an overhead done and maybe some other stuff. I believe it's a service truck also. So let's get out there and see what we got going on. Driving through the very beautiful little town of Rathdrum here, folks. We're actually going to be coming back to this for the second part of the video, but nice little town here. We're going to be taking Highway 41, or if you're from the Southwest, you would say the 41, but don't say the 41 up here. They'll know you're from out of town. And Highway 41 goes through Twin Lake, Spirit Lake, and then up to Blanchard, which is where the C13 we're going to be working on here. This is late April. Still a little bit of snow on the mountains, but all the green's coming back, folks. And this is her. And this is Jake's truck. He bought this truck from a local company. And I can't even say the price. He told me the price. It might be illegal for how much he got this truck for. And as you can see, this is a single turbo retrofitted C13. Now this gigantic K&N air filter, he's not keeping that. He's going to run normal intake tubing. When he bought the truck, it didn't have turbos, intake tubing, pre-cooler, anything. So he's had to make all this. He's using a PDI manifold there. He's bypassed the pre-cooler. And the engine looks to be in pretty good shape. The truck itself is pretty cool, and that's their business there, Big Iron Fabrication LLC. Jake and Alora over there in Blanchard, thank you very much for hiring me for this job. Really nice truck you have here. Now he's going to turn this into a service truck, and this might be the nicest service truck when he's done in North Idaho, folks. But what do we got going on? Well, he suspects it might have IVA problems. Supposedly number 6 cylinder is weak or has a broken ring. Low oil pressure, and that's why he was able to get this truck, and that's why the company sold it for so cheap. But he said he ran it, no real problems that he could find. So he changed the oil, used cat filters, of course, and even a cat fuel filter, other than the primary, but that doesn't really matter. And so let's start looking at this puppy here, see what codes are on there. Now, before we get too in-depth here, I'd really need to say thank you to Rick. Rick sent me this laptop, this Dell Latitude rugged laptop. He runs SuperiorSubi.com or sales at SuperiorSubi.com. He mostly deals with Subarus, but also LMTVs, your cat-powered military tactical overland vehicles. Got any problems with those type of vehicles? Email him there. He'll be happy to help you. He knows a lot more about them and their electronics than even I do. So what we've got going on here, folks, we're just checking the codes. And yeah, he's got a couple log faults for low coolant level. But let's start this truck and see what it actually has. I'm going to cut out number 6 just to see, but I can tell there's no miss. So it's definitely firing fine. I'll just do all of them. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, you don't have a dead cylinder. Interesting. Some air nonsense going on. So what was going on there, folks, is actually the truck was parked a few inches from the back of the shop, and when it was airing up, it was actually moving backwards and hitting the back of the shop here. So all we had to do was release the brakes and move forward a few inches, but just be mindful when you're parking close to structures. Luckily, it didn't damage anything. So look at this. That is quite the table we have here. I think he said it's 1.125" plate steel or something like that. I would really hate to have to move that table.
Seems like it takes it a little bit to spool up.
Like boost-wise? Because the C12 turned into the C13. Oh, that guy's stripped. Stripped! It's just really rigid. The snippy cutter guy. With the valve cover off Engine is super clean. No signs of coolant, rust, anything inside the engine, which is really good. Unknown mileage on the engine. The odometer says about 900,000. The ECM said 1.3 million. He's hoping it's the 900, but either way, it has quite a few miles on it. Now, one thing he noticed while I was doing the overhead for him was the valve cover is cracked right here and on the other side of the valve cover. And he said, how the heck would that happen? And I said, well, wasn't there when this happened, but I have a pretty good hunch, and that hunch is someone either lift the head or the engine itself with lifting chains, and the lifting links are right next to the valve cover. So that is my hunch, and it's probably accurate. Fortunately, cracked and destroyed that valve cover. This week's Destruction of the Week, we actually have 3 different ones. First one is from Jackson. This is on a C18 Cat. And this one's going to be an expensive one, folks. We got valves sitting in multiple cylinders, but that's actually probably not the worst part. This is pretty bad, folks. Specification on this is about 14 thousandths. I would say that's out of specification there, folks. And that was the idler for the cam gear. And the cam gear also damaged. Probably have a lot of other gear damage there. Not good. Now look at that. Valves are all over the place. Next one is from Mike, and he said it was a John Deere engine. Only picture he sent, but you know, John Deere makes some really weird looking piston, folks. You know, I don't know, I'm a cat guy, but next one is from Forrest, and he said, could you shout out my company, West Coast Fleet Services in Moses Lake, Washington? It's only about 2 hours from us over here in the Coeur d'Alene area. And he said this was a C7 truck that came in for a belt squeal. He didn't say if they fixed the belt squeal, folks, but I think it had other problems going on. Obviously, we got majorly damaged valves there. The cylinder wall is cracked here, and if you know C7s, they don't have liners, so this is going to be getting a new block or at least some super major machine work done. Now we're back to our C13 here. What the heck is this? That is the injector hold down clip for number 3 cylinder. One is upside down, one is not, but it's missing the plastic retainer form. Who would put that upside down? He was wondering if we should mess with it, and I said, well, maybe. It's not missing, but maybe that stud's broken or something, so we just left it alone. I asked if the AC worked. He said, I don't know, I haven't tried it, but looking at the compressor clutch here, it is, we'll just say, a little wobbly. It looks like it's shaved off in certain sections. It does rotate, luckily, but I don't know, there's some problems there. Here's probably the most irritating thing I found when I do the overhead on here. That's a 16 millimeter lock nut. That's a 14. C13s are supposed to have 16 millimeter lock nuts on their rocker arms. Someone has put, mix, and match. Some are 14 millimeter, some are 16, all over the place. What the heck? You know how frustrating it is to try and do an overhead and then your different size rocker lock nuts are all over the place? What the heck? Driving me nuts. But was able to do the overhead, luckily. Some of them were within spec and some were super tight. I don't know what the heck's going on here. There were mixed matched IVA housings in there. Some were reman, some were new. I don't really know what the heck was going on there, but luckily, runs and sounds good. He's gonna continue working on it, see what's going on. Maybe it does have some other problems. Like I said, he is gonna fix that. And that was it for our C13, which brings us back to Rathdrum here in the woods, folks. And, well, I mean, there's woods everywhere up here. It's North Idaho, by the way. And this one is a 3406E, and it had various problems. He wanted me to hook up to it. He had some fan problems. He wanted me to check the overhead for him. And I said, okay, let's get hooked up, and let's see what the first thing we're going to do. Let's see if the ECM controlled the cooling fan. Because on some of these older ones, you don't know. Sometimes people bypass stuff, but this one, when you command the fan on, it comes on from the ECM. So it is ECM controlled. Coolant temp sensors seem to be working normally. And he was like, well, it seems like the belts are a little loose, so check that. Yeah, that's pretty loose for some V-belts, so luckily we're going to work on getting those tightened up. This has the alternate style with the sliding tensioner on it. I actually started to move the fan hub, like on Moston. He's like, no, tensioner over here. I was like, ah, shoot, making me look dumb, but, you know, If I would have just walked to the other side and checked, I would have figured it out there shortly. Now we're doing the overhead here. And he's like, yeah, do I need an overhead? I said, well, when's the last time you had one? He said, it's been about 2 years, maybe 100,000 miles. I said, it's probably not a bad idea. I usually do them about every 100,000. Some guys do it 200,000, but, it's up to you. So I said, do you want me to do the overhead, or do you want me to teach you how to do an overhead? And he said, teach me. Now his aunt there, where we were, she has a bunch of chickens, ducks, and geese. She said, hey, you want a goose egg and some duck eggs? I said, I've never had any, but sure. Duck eggs are pretty good. The goose egg was huge. Look at that thing. That goose egg is like 3 times the size of a large chicken egg. It was good also. The shell is super hard to crack, though. They have some French bulldogs out there, too. She sounds almost like a cross between a dog and a pig, but very nice little puppy. She was just kind of roaming around with a bunch of chickens out there while I was working. And pretty nice day out. It was perfect weather. So here we are working with, we'll just say codename B, and we're teaching him how to do the overhead. He said he's comfortable doing tires and brakes and electrical. He was working on the truck when I pulled up doing some lighting. But he said he's actually thinking of being a mechanic maybe in the future. And this truck is family's owned for 3 generations, and he wanted to learn more about it. And I got to say, folks, it's very rewarding showing someone a skill set that they don't have yet, teaching them how to do this, instead of just doing it for them. I mean, if you're saying, well, Josh, you're kind of might be shooting yourself in the foot there by showing him how to do this. He's not going to hire you in the future. I don't think that's true. I think if he trusts you and you give him a skill set, he's more likely to hire you for something in the future than they would be if you just hold the knowledge close to your chest. And from what I could see there, the engine's in pretty good shape. Just putting the intake tube back on here for the turbocharger. This one was pretty tricky getting it to slide on the bottom there. I usually put a little bit of soapy water on the tubes here, on any of these larger rubber tubes, or I'll use some of the rubber lubricant used for liners, anything like that. It dries off. It's not like it's going to get caked up and thrown into the turbo or something, but it really helps seat these tubes when you're trying to get them on, because a lot of these tubes sometimes are a big pain in the butt. This one, not the easiest, where it has the big air filter right over the valve covers. I really like them more when the valve cover, or the air filter itself, is on outside of the truck. It makes the tubing easier to get on and off. There's not brackets usually for it, but it is what it is, folks. This one's not the worst. Going back, putting my tools back. You guys probably want to see a layout of the van here. I'm not done with how I'm laying it out, though. Give me a couple weeks, I'll do a layout with how I have it. And so far, I really like it. I like the setup. Gives you pretty good access to the tools I use the most, and can hold quite a bit of cargo. And that's really it, folks. Another 2 successful jobs done, and just driving around North Idaho here, basically working on mostly Cat engines, but we'll see what else is out there. There's quite a few other jobs out there, and everything's not a Cat engine, unfortunately. But maybe you're saying, hey, I live in North Idaho, and I'd like you to look at my Cat engine. You can always send me an email at adeptape@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you, even if it isn't something where you want me to work on, or maybe you just want to get some questions answered, or find out, what does this wire do? What does this code mean? What is this noise? And also, if you don't live in North Idaho, folks, I always answer my emails. I answer them myself. They're free. Also, maybe you're in the market for a big old orange toolbox, folks. $4,900. I still have this toolbox. It's an Epic 68-inch. Email me if you're interested at all in that. And as always, folks, thanks for watching.